fall weather myself. Y'all ready for some fall weather? Hey, Aaliyah. All right, Aaliyah. So this picture, if you can see it, you can pick any two things that are biotic. Remember, biotic means living. And then any two things that are abiotic. Just be sure you make sure you list them as whether they're biotic or abiotic. So tomorrow we'll just kind of continue with our notes. On Tuesday we will have a test. It's on the same day as 6 weeks, but it doesn't cover everything it's covered. It'll just be as far as we get on these notes. So it'll be pretty short. And then Tuesday we'll have that's Tuesday. Wednesday we'll have our journal test. Okay. Wednesday we will have our journal test. I like this thing. It's all stretched out. Okay. Put my little sound off. It's a kind of text coming through. Alrighty, we good on this? So if you'll take your notes out, we're going to do some notes before we do that really easy worksheet. You already doing it? Very easy, isn't it? Are you doing? Are you just doodling? All right. So if you'll get your notes out, the ones that we've been working on, we're going to do a little bit of those. We're at food webs. Not too much. All right, let me do my template. I'm going to get something to show up. I'm going to try the overhead. Notes are so, we'll see. All right, let's see what we can do. So Leah, these are the notes that we started, I think on Tuesday. They're in the Google Classroom, if you don't have yours with you. So you can type onto them in the Google Classroom. All right, so we had talked about food chains, and now if you put some food chains together, you get a food web. So it's a little bit more complex, and it's going to be a little bit more realistic. So a food web is a group of food chains that shows multiple feeding relationships. Because that's really how most organisms live. So it is a network of feeding relationships. Yeah, I got it. So you can put your stuff. Thank you. Do you want to fold it?
I think I'm definitely.
Grab a paper. We're going to be doing this after we do some notes. Tilly, you got to have your notes. Okay, then we'll get you another set. You're gonna have to put them together at some point, okay? All right, so the arrows in the food web point to the flow of energy from one organism to another. A food web illustrates that most animals eat more than one type of food. We said those are generalists. That's kind of more realistic. And feed at more than one trophic level. So like bears, sometimes they may eat fruit, so that puts them at the first trophic level, but sometimes they may eat fish, so that moves them up a couple of trophic levels. So we drew some, a couple of days ago, we drew some food chains. So our energy, we said, starts from the sun, and then these arrows part to where the energy moves. So it moves to the plants, and then the energy moves from the plants to the insects, and that keeps on happening. So arrows show you where the energy is flowing. All right, so we're going to look at our food web, and we're going to label our producers and consumers. So that's a few pages back. Let's see where it's at. So if you'll go all the way back here, I think it's about 2 or 3 places back to this one that says food web. Unless it got left out. Is it left out? Oh, sorry, very last page. It's just farther back. All right, so this is a really complex food web. So at the tip of each arrow, I want you to label, right, C1, C2, C3, or C4, depending what they are. So in other words, here's my plant. So my plant is my producer. The grasshopper eats the plant. So here it is a C1, primary consumer. Then the lizard eats the grasshopper. So that would be my secondary consumer. Then the snake eats the lizard. So that would be what we called our tertiary consumer. And then finally the hawk's kind of at the top of this food chain here. The hawk eats the snake, so it is a C4, a quaternary consumer. But now if we go through a different way, if I started the plant and I go to the grasshopper, so it's still a C1, but now if I follow this arrow, I see that a hawk, and actually this arrow comes all the way down here. I can see that a grasshopper could also just go right until it decomposes. And a decomposer is not considered a consumer. It's just going to break down the material. All right, let's try one more, and then I'll give you all a few minutes to work on them. Here's my plant. Go to my rabbit. So what's my rabbit going to be? It's the consumer. What consumer level is it? C1. And then the rabbit gets eaten by the hawk, so it is a C2. So you can see the hawk doesn't always have to be a C4. It can be different levels. Do the same thing. Follow your next one. Here's my plant. My plant gets eaten by a mouse, so my mouse is C1. Mouse gets eaten by the hawk, so here the hawk is C2 again. What else do we have here? How about going, what's our bird going to be? C1. And then here, the snake's going to eat the bird, so the snake would be C2. But look what else eats the bird. Over here, the hawk. So here the hawk is, I think it's still just a C2 because the plant to the bird and then the bird to the hawk. So that would make it a C2. Let's see, what other arrows do we have? What about this arrow right here? What would that be? A C2, exactly. Rabbit. Rabbit gets eaten by snake, so we got a C2 there. What about this arrow? C2 again. Because the mouse eats the plant, and then here the snake. Let's see, what other arrows do we have? We got this one right here with the bird. What would that one be? A C2 again, a lot of C2s. So you can see some animals are at different trophic levels. This snake can either be at the second trophic level with the C2s, or he can also, depending on where he goes, be a C3. Same thing for this hawk. A lot of C2s, but then he can also be a C4. Did we leave anything out? This is an arrow, but this is not a decomposer. This is just when the plant dies and it's going to get broken down. So this is much more realistic than just a single food chain of what's going on in an environment. You usually don't just have one line going, you have quite a few lines going. All right, flip back to our notes. All right, we're going to look at ecological pyramids. All right, so we're three different types of ecological pyramids, which are pyramids that represent the flow of energy and the organisms that live in a particular ecosystem. So the first one is the energy pyramid, so it represents energy flow or energy use. So it represents the energy available for use by organisms at each trophic level, which is only 10% of the energy that came from the preceding trophic level. So in other words, down here, the P for my producers, this is going to be my first trophic level. All the producers that are there. Here are all my C1s. So that would be my second trophic level. And here would be my C2s. So that would be my third trophic level. And then finally up here would be my fourth trophic level. All right, so let's say that down here where we had a bunch of producers, let's say that they had 250,000 kilocalories of energy. That's just a random number, but kilocalories are calories, but kilocalories are larger, is a measurement of energy. So each time we move up a trophic level, we lose some energy. We only have 10% of that energy move up. So what we're basically doing is we're dropping a zero. So from first trophic level to second trophic level, we go down to 25,000 kilocalories. And then we drop another zero and we go down up to 2,500 kilocalories. Drop another zero when we end up only at 250 kilocalories. And that's why it's shaped like a pyramid. It starts with a lot of energy, but it decreases each time we move up. And what happens is this energy that we're losing at each level, it's being given off, it's being lost. It's being lost as heat. and waste. So a lot of energy is used to keep your body warm or to keep it at the temperature that you want it at or your body wants to be. So this loss means that this energy can no longer be used for work. So it seems like it's just kind of wasted. Although we do need to maintain our body with homeostasis, so in a way you could say that it is very necessary. So this means that 90% of the energy at each trophic level is used for growth and maintenance. And then the rest of it is lost to the environment as heat. And the units for the energy pyramid are, like I said, kilocalories. 1,000 calories. So as we move up, the energy gets less and less. The energy is used for growth, for development, for repair. And then the rest of it's just lost as heat. Kilocalories. All right, the next one that we're going to look at is called a biomass pyramid. So biomass is the total amount of living mass within a trophic level. And this is dry. Oh, sorry. Is that better? This is dry mass. So that means all the water has been removed. So once again, same thing. You see that down here is a larger amount and it's decreasing. So our producers are going to have our largest amount. And then it's going to decrease as we move up each trophic level. So this is a far greater amount for producers. And then the last one that we're going to look at today, catch some of those tomorrow, is what's called a numbers pyramid. So it actually illustrates the number of organisms feeding at each trophic level. Sorry. Same thing, it's a larger amount for the producers than whenever we get up here to our C3s. So maybe we have 1,000 plants, and that's enough to feed 100 birds. Yeah. 100 birds only will feed 10 snakes. And that may only be enough to support one hawk. So you're going to have a lot more down here with your producers, and it's going to decrease as we move up. So this shows the vast number of producers required to support a few consumers. It may take 1,000 plants to eventually only be enough to support one hawk. All right, we'll stop there on note. Oh, you sure can. Stop there on notes, and we'll do our little worksheet, which is really easy. I have myself a copy up here. Maybe I don't. No. All right. All right, so these are a bunch of pretty simple food webs. Pretty simple food webs. And if you look between each pair of organism, there's two arrows. They're going both ways. And really your arrow should just go one way. It should go the way that the energy flows. And this is going to give us our hint right here. So here, our source of energy is the sun, and it goes to the phytoplankton. And then the phytoplankton is the source of energy for zooplankton. So which arrow should we keep? Here's my phytoplankton, here's my zooplankton. Should we keep the arrow that's going toward the zooplankton or the one that's going toward the phytoplankton? But here it says, remember our arrows go the way of the energy. It says the phytoplankton is the energy for the zooplankton. So that means I want this arrow to stay and that arrow to be gone. Because that arrow shows that the phytoplankton is being eaten by the zooplankton. My next one says that the zooplankton, so here's my zooplankton, is being eaten by small fish. Andrew, stay awake. My zooplankton is being eaten by small fish. So which arrow should I keep? The one pointing toward the small fish or the one pointing toward the zooplankton? Right. Because we said that's what is being eaten. So that is the one that we don't need. And then on the next one I have is that the shrimp eats the phytoplankton and the zooplankton. So it eats both of them. So here's my relationship between zooplankton and shrimp. Which arrow should I keep? The one that's pointing toward shrimp or the one that's pointing toward the zooplankton? Shrimp. That's where my energy is going. And then we still got this set. It says the shrimp eats the phytoplankton. So that means I need that arrow. That way the phytoplankton would be eaten by the shrimp. So my energy starts here with the sun, goes to the zooplankton, and then it can go to the small fish or it could go to the shrimp. I said here my energy starts from the sun, goes to my phytoplankton, and then it could go to shrimp or it can go to zooplankton and eventually get to your small fish. All right, so why don't y'all give this second one a try? At each sets of arrow, pick the one you need to keep and put an X on the one that you don't. And this right here is what's going to give you the information. The information the arrow should be pointing to the organism that's doing the eating, because it's the one that's getting the energy. Eunice, you have to put your mask on for me, please, ma'am. Thank you. All right, let's start with my first one. Between my algae and my small fish, which way does it need to go? Small fish. I don't think algae can eat small fish, can they? Then between my small fish and my large fish, which one does it need to be? Large fish. Then I have large fish and human. Human. And then I have small fish and human. Human again. And that's where my energy's flowing. All right, I think there's 3 more. So y'all work on those 3. I'll come around and see if anybody needs help. Make sure you put your name on it, because sometimes y'all forget to put your name on it, and then I can't give you help. No, you are not leaving today. You're staying in here. You'll be okay.